Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe SI Talk. Bei mir heute ein Startinterview und zwar GSP Resources Corp, notiert auch in Deutschland natürlich an der TSX mit GSPR. Ich kenne die Firma relativ wenig, also ich habe eigentlich nicht wirklich Ahnung, was die Company macht. Ich weiß zwar, in welcher Region die ist, das ist schon mal sehr erfreulich, aber das soll uns der Simon gleich direkt selber erklären ja, er wird uns jetzt die Company mal vorstellen und dann schauen wir mal, werden wir ein bisschen auf den Zahn fühlen, was so Neues gibt. Simon, thank you for your time. I must say I have not too much clue about your company, so maybe you can give us a elevator pitch, I must say, so that we have a better understanding from your company. And then you coming up yesterday or day before with interesting news. So, and the markets looks also in general better. So maybe it's now the right time to invest in your company.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, thanks a lot, and happy to have an opportunity to discuss the GSP story with your audience. So, as a very general overview, we're an exploration company focused on a past producing high grade copper, silver, gold mine in British Columbia, Canada. Mm-hmm. We're a micro cap stock. Our market cap today is only about $3 million. Insiders own over 30% of our shares, so those are locked up. We only have about 29 million shares outstanding and currently trading at about 10 cents Canadian. We have an exciting property. As I mentioned, we are focused on a past producing copper, gold, silver mine that was operational back in the 1960s, 70s, and shut down in the early 1980s. And the really unique thing about this mine and property is that there was a lot of money spent on exploring it and developing an underground mine, but there was barely any production because the commodity prices were fluctuating so drastically during that time period. In the 1980s, the price of copper dropped down to about 55 cents US per pound in 1981, leading to what we believe was a premature shutdown of this property, which is called the Alwyn Copper Mine. Backing up a little bit, the location of the property is very, very important. And the location is within 2 kilometers of Canada's largest open pit copper mine. This is operated by Teck Resources, which is a very large diversified mining company now focusing away from coal and into copper and base metals. They own and operate the Highland Valley Copper Mine. And if investors are able to look at our map or our presentation, they will see we have a parcel of about 550 hectares, which includes all of our past producing underground high-grade mine, but it's completely surrounded by claims that are owned by Teck Resources. And east of us by about 2 kilometers is their largest open pit mine in their complex, which is known as the Valley Pit. And the Valley Pit, it's a massive operation and it's slowly growing towards our property. In fact, Teck Resources has recently filed an application with the local provincial government here to expand their mine even further west towards us. So we're in a great location. We're excited about our property. We think that we can continue to drill and grow on what we've already discovered. But we're in an area that it's a brownfields site, meaning that in terms of ease of permitting or local community support for building or expanding a mining operation, this is an area that is in British Columbia. It's a progressive state in Western Canada or province that has a keen eye for environmental issues. So when you're proposing to develop or reopen a mine on ground that's already disturbed, has already had a lot of activity on it, it goes a long way that you're not proposing to be disturbing anything on pristine terrain. Mm-hmm. So we think that there's, a very compelling story here with us, basically looking to work on ground that's already been mined. We're not proposing, any major disturbance or anything like that in an area that's remote or has, very unique sort of environmental or recreational qualities to it. In terms of what, yes?
Sorry to interrupt you. You have a very interesting page on your presentation, page 15. It shows your project with the Highland Valley Copper Mine 2005 and then 2014. So the mine coming closer to you. And now you're really, for me, to speak frankly between you and me, is that you bring this project into production is really a potential way to go, or it's not more clear that the company will take over you, Teck?
That's a very good question, and I think it's a little bit too early to even speculate on that. What we're really trying to do, the location of the mine, I think it's a positive, but it's really secondary to what we're doing now in terms of our development and exploration of the Alwyn mine project. So what I mean by that is our property has had, if you want to look at current day currency values, about $20 million of exploration money at today's prices has been spent on the property, primarily on drilling, underground and from surface. We have now over 50,000 meters of historic drill data that we've obtained through a painstaking process of sifting through paper records from the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, scanning, digitizing, confirming, and verifying the information contained in them. And we are now building a modern day 3D dimensional mineral model, geological model, and later a resource model. And the significance of this is that we think that there's the potential to not only reclassify and expand on the known mineralization in the Alwyn mine, but potentially to consider it as an open pit, not necessarily as strictly an underground mine. So that is something that our geological consultants right now are investigating, and that news will be out later this spring into this summer on our findings on this modeling. One, where does the mineralization project? Where is it open? We think that there is a trend towards the mine next door. That would be huge. But also, because this underground mine was modeled and considered at a time of much lower commodity pricing, we think that there's a very compelling case to look at this as an open pit mine. And if we're able to do that, if the math works on it as a small open pit mine surrounded by five other open pit mines owned by another company, if we could show a sixth pit, what you mentioned earlier in your question, that could be a whole nother discussion in terms of potential partners. And given, I think, the scarcity of copper, the scarcity of good projects in safe political jurisdictions, it could open up conversations with not only our neighbors, but potentially with a host of other senior companies that have a bias towards looking at copper properties.
If you really talk with the other one, it would be great. And then I think you come over in the takeover fight with Teck. So that's for sure. If this happened, it's really a perfect setup for higher prices. Then, to be honest, when I'm Teck and I see that 2 kilometers from my main pit is something by another, I do everything that I can get it. So
yeah,
if some other coming in and a big one maybe and try to get this one. So it's for me it's a no-brainer that the Teck will have very interesting. But one interesting thing is there a small lake, or is this an old tailing facility? What is in your area?
So that is the old tailings facility from the underground mine, and just to the east of it, so you can see there's sort of like a beach. It looks like a beach on the photo. So that's where the old mine, or not the mine workings, but the mill was. So there was about a 700 ton per day flotation mill on site until the early to mid 80s. And that lake is completely inert. So it's safe. The water's safe. It's tested. But just to give investors a flavor for the scale of the operation, it wasn't just a single adit or anything like that into into the hillside. It was a fairly serious underground operation with workings totaling about 3,700 meters of underground workings,
Mm-hmm.
down 250 meters depth over a strike length of 500 meters and a width of 250 meters. So, our underground mine area is by no means small, and that's where we're really excited about growing it. I mean, obviously it's a great neighborhood, and as you pointed out, there's lots of potential for partners to come in, but really we're excited about just growing what we have right now through further drilling. And in our recent drilling did just that. We drilled some holes back last autumn, so approximately October, November of last year. We drilled 6 holes, 5 or 6 holes. They all hit high grade copper, silver, gold, shallow. And that's where we think we can continue to grow the property and get the market cap higher, potentially through the drill bit. And that's, off a 3 million market cap. If we continue to have good success, if the copper, silver, and gold price continue to stay elevated and increase, I think there's a very compelling investment opportunity with GSPR, simply with further drilling.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just touch on an example of the results that we recently intersected. So hole 1 of our 2023 autumn campaign intersected high-grade copper, 5.7 meters, averaging 5.21% copper, 103 grams per ton silver, and 1.22 grams per ton gold, or 6.77% copper equivalent. And I'll note that intersection hit a parallel zone of mineralization to what had been in our model previously, and was located at quite a shallow depth of only about 115 meters below the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And just a quick, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What is the grade? What your neighbor have?
That's an excellent question. The last I checked, their average grade, and this is from their recent annual information form, is around 0.3% copper.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a very large open pit operation. We should qualify that.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the biggest in the country. But yeah, our grade compares very favorably, and so it could potentially be considered as high grade feedstock for an open pit operation as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to mention at this point that um, the topography of our historic deposit is very favorable. So the veins that we're drilling outcrop right to surface, and the surface is underlain by a hilltop. So
Mm-hmm.
we're not looking at a deep hosted vein system. It comes right up to surface, and the surface falls away as you get away from the main zone. So it's quite, we think it's very compelling to potentially look at this as an open pit to make the strip ratio work.
Okay. From the core, looks like, do you know, looks like the same as your neighbor, so that we can really say maybe it looks like that comes from the same source. So it's too close that you cannot say that's comes from a different source, or it's very yeah, it's logical that it's come from
Yeah,
there.
I mean we haven't seen their core, so I
Mm-hmm.
can't say that it looks the same as their core. But clearly we think it's part of the same mineralizing event just
Mm-hmm.
because of the proximity. And oftentimes you have these shear hosted high grade copper vein systems as an offshoot of a bigger porphyry copper intrusion.
Mm-hmm.
Which is obviously there are a few of them just to
Mm-hmm.
our east in the
Mm-hmm.
Highland Valley mine complex.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One question to the previous mine. As you say, there's a lot of underground work done in the past. Is it floated so that you cannot go have access to this underground work, or you have access to the underground work?
Oh yeah, so that's a great question. Now we haven't yet pursued a safety strategy to go underground, but about half of it is flooded and half of it is open.
Okay. Okay.
So there is the potential to go underground without having to dewater the lower parts of the mine. but we have yet to pursue that strategy because, as I mentioned, that the hilltop geography, it makes it reasonable to drill right from surface. You could potentially save some drilling costs by starting underground drilling holes, but the trade-off for that is the cost of dewatering, and so at this point at a 3 million market cap, we're still okay. And let me just touch on that. We drilled our 5 holes in the fall. That was a budget of only 250,000 Canadian, and that was drilling from surface. So it's not like we're going down a 1 kilometer or something like that to drill super deep holes. It virtually starts from surface, so it still for us makes sense to be drilling from surface.
Well, what must the size of a serious exploration program, so a serious drilling program, what must be the size that you can say, okay, we drill out, you never drill out a project, that's not the point, but that you can say, okay, now we know much more about the potential, what you must invest in the
Yeah, no, great. And yeah, great question. That is being worked out right now, and we'll have public disclosure news release outlining our 2024 exploration program, which we expect to include another drill program. And that's a little vague, but let me answer it this way. I think doubling the program that we did last year, so between 1,000 and 1,500 meters, would be probably a good supplement to what we've done as a first stage. So we're not talking about anything massive to keep advancing the property. So call it let's say 1 to 2,000 meters. We think has the potential to discover more mineralization. Particularly down plunge to the east of the known mineralization, which is in the direction of the open pit mine next door.
Is there old or historical resource calculation on it?
There is not. So we are working on this right now, and that is a very important factor for us because it has never yet been considered as an open pit mine, and we think that actually makes a lot more sense now given today's commodity price environment.
Okay. So we have an old historical mine. We have no resource calculation on it, but we have a big neighbor next to us, really next to us. That's mean in 2 kilometers, or you can see it from your hill to the that they are coming closer to you. It's only a question of time when they are knocking on your door. From my point of view, not for you cannot say this, but I can say this. So, and you coming up with really interesting high grade numbers. So, and high grade is always great when you have something in your drill bit. So, and yesterday you or 2 days you're coming up with a new acquisition. So you buy another 185 hectares. So
yeah, that's right. Yep.
Normally, I think it's not easy to get some ground in this area. Then Teck will stake everything what you can find. Normally, I would say. So how it comes?
Yeah, exactly right. They have almost everything other than what we now have. So an opportunity came up to acquire the Mur claims, which are on strike with some of our exploration targets. So on the news release that we posted announcing this acquisition, we highlighted the location of a few things, most notably the Teck Highland Valley pit, the Alwyn mine on our property, and then the Al showing, which is also on the Alwyn property to our northwest. And what is significant here is that the Al showing is right on strike with the Mur showing. So we think that there is a potential structure here that carries copper mineralization running from east to northwest. And we were very fortunate to strike a deal to acquire these remaining claims that are not controlled by Teck. So that was announced just on April 16th. The deal is with the exchange. We believe it will close. And again, it was an opportunistic acquisition where now we can say that we have everything that Teck doesn't have uh, in and around this Highland Valley copper camp.
So, what you must pay for this?
Yeah, it was a reasonable price. It was about 100,000 shares and 10,000 Canadian dollars,
That
and a royalty that we
okay?
can buy back for 500 grand. Yeah,
Yeah, but this is a cheap opportunity, I must say.
that's the way we saw it. Yes.
Okay, interesting. So, but we talk a lot about the past, and we talk about a little bit of the future, but coming now really to more focus on the future. So what is really the exact plan of the exploration, what you plan this year? Second, what do you do other things to advance the project? And third is the most important question is how to finance this stuff. 3 million, that's mean you have no really, yeah, I don't think that you have 10 million in the pocket with 3 million
Yeah.
market cap. So, wait a second, I must buy some shares. So,
Yeah, no, good question. So look, we have a small market cap. There's no doubt about it. But how we get the market cap a little bit higher here is, I think, one, we're going to benefit from the copper price breaking out. I mean, it is broken out above $4 now, and all the analysts
but
that I've
nobody's
seen.
interested. It's terrible. When I look at it, the market and say also the gold. You see, we have multiple days on all-time highs. We are close to 2,400, and nobody's interested in the stocks. Um, for sure, we have some runs and we have some lights coming up, but it's nothing compared what we must have normally. So it's a frustrating.
It's very frustrating. I mean, I hear you on that. It's so tough to watch, and you're right that the commodities have run and the equities have, kind of sputtered forward a little bit. But that is usually how it goes. It's very seldom that everything runs in tandem. And I think because the market has been so challenging over the last 4 years, with many, call it fake outs, rallies that haven't continued, that many investors have been, for lack of a better term, burned, and now they're burned out, and they're not racing to chase the equities just because the commodity's moving. That said, the commodity breakout is very, very significant, and the cash flows now that some of the gold companies are going to be making simply cannot be ignored by the general market much further. So I think there's a huge arbitrage opportunity here where the generalists have to come down and start to invest in the very underallocated mining sector in general. And once that happens, it trickles into the juniors like GSP. And so, those are all obviously just forward-looking projections, but that has been the cycle over the past few decades. The commodity price moves, nobody believes it, then it stays, and people start to believe it, and then there's a flood of money chasing in early stage opportunities. And the best opportunities are the ones that have existing deposits in safe jurisdictions with solid work programs and good capital structures. So that's what we offer to the market. We have a great property. We drilled it. Now we know we have the potential to hit good numbers when we drill. We know we have a great neighbor. We know that it's brownfields. It's an opportunity to work in an area where it's cheap to drill, cheap to work, favorable for potential development. And what are we going to be doing over the next few months, as you asked? Well, we are modeling the underground workings, the 50,000 meters of historic drill data in a resource model, first to be internal and to drive our exploration targets. That will then feed into our summer field program. So we're going to go up into the field over the next few months. We're going to be doing groundwork on our new claims, on our existing claims, and really honing in the drill targets. And then by September, we expect to be drilling a program, hopefully at least double of what we did last year. So, 10,000 to 2,000 meters at a cost of hopefully around the same of last year, which was about $300 a meter. So, the cheapest drilling really that you're going to see in BC, and that's how we're going to make money for our shareholders. You'll point out that we'll have to finance that. I mean, obviously, but we're talking about maybe a drill program less than $1 million. It is not going to break down the capital structure to make that happen. So we think that there are plenty of catalysts to power the stock over the next few months before having to raise the modestly larger amount for a drill program to start in September.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the problem is always when the market expect a private placement, then he always keep the stock down and say, hey, why it should run, and we wait for the placement. So, but if you're coming up with a placement, send me please the sub form. It's sounds really great.
Absolutely. We have that on video, so I will for sure.
Perfect. No, I think, Simon, it was a great introduction, and I think with the summary, what I said, I'm very interesting to invest also some money into you. I think it says everything what I expect from this thing. And thank you for the first introduction to your company. It was really a great one. We are close to 26 minutes, so it's time to say goodbye. But I'm really interested in the stock, and when you are coming up with maybe the resource calculation or something, or ideas, maybe we can set up a new interview so that we can follow a little bit closer the story. So it's really a very interesting project, I must say. Thank you for the introduction.
We also think it's interesting. We've been pursuing it for a couple of years now, and we think this will be a transformational year for this project and for the stock. So thank you for the opportunity to come and discuss it with you on your show today.
Thank you. Ja, war ein erste Introduction von GSP Resources. Weil wir es da schon sind, Shareholder-Struktur, 30 Millionen Shares sind draußen, fully diluted 38 Millionen, 2,8 Millionen Marktkapitalisierung, der Aktienkurs hat nicht wirklich was gemacht. Aber hier ist die Story eigentlich ganz kurz erklärt. Daneben der Nachbar Teck, Highland, Valley Copper Mine, durchschnittlich glaube ich 0,3% Kupfer, was sie haben. Hier ist ihr Projekt, eine alte historische Underground-Mine, die in die 60er Jahre bis Anfang der 80er Jahre des letzten Jahrhunderts produziert hat. Das sind unter 2 Kilometer, man sieht es hier, von der Ecke bis zu der Ecke sind es unter 2 Kilometer. Hier ist der alte Tailings-Facility und hier war der Standort der alten Mühle. Untergrund ist einiges gemacht worden. Wir sehen hier sehr viele Declines, die hier drinnen sind. Er ist halb unter Wasser, halb nicht. Das heißt, sie haben aber noch keine Strategie, wie es ob es an den Untergrund gehen, weil dort könnte man natürlich ein bisschen billiger bohren, denn das Bohren ist eigentlich sehr, sehr billig. Sie bohren von der Oberfläche, man hat hier ein schönes Foto gesehen, glaube ich. Ja, hier mit Drillrig. Bohren ist sehr billig. Sie haben letztes Jahr gebohrt im Herbst und sie haben sensationelle Gehalte gehabt von 138 Meter Tiefe, 150 Meter Tiefe, 12 Meter Intersection, 3,14% Kupferäquivalent, was ein Wahnsinn ist. Teilweise noch hochgradiger mit 5,2% Kupfer. Hier sehen Sie 2 Meter mit 7,8% Kupfer. Bei 0,3, was Teck jetzt abbaut, ist das sehr, sehr hochgradig. Was keiner bis jetzt in der Vergangenheit geschaut hat, ist, dass das möglicherweise ein Open-Pit-Szenario einfach ist, dass man das Open-Pit einfach abbaut, viel billiger natürlich zum Abbauen als Underground, ist klar, aber für mich ist eigentlich der Deal relativ einfach. Es ist für mich nur mehr eine Frage der Zeit, bis das Teck kommt und die Company schluckt. Es ist zu nahe an ihrem Projekt, rundherum haben sie schon alle Gebiete. Es ist klar, dass hier was ist, weil sonst wäre halt auch hier keine alte Mine gewesen, die auch schon Kupfer abgebaut hat. Dann ist es eingestellt, weil einfach die Preise in den 80er Jahren so volatil waren und das einfach kein sicheres Businessmodell war. Sie haben jetzt einen zweiten Claim dazu gekauft. Rundherum, wie gesagt, gehört Teck alles. Sie sehen hier die Riesenanlage, was da ist. Unter 2 Kilometer ist dieser Abstand. Also, sage ich mal, das ist klar, früher oder später wird Teck da schlucken. Er sagt, sie wollen es einmal so weiterentwickeln. Ich meine, 3 Millionen ist ja nichts Marktkapitalisierung. Das müssen sie jetzt natürlich auch, sage ich mal, die weitere Exploration auch finanzieren. Deswegen habe ich auch gesagt, ich bin interessiert an einem Private Placement zu machen, weil, seien wir ehrlich, bei 10 Cent, bei 3 Millionen Marktkapitalisierung, da fällt nichts. Wir haben sichere Judikatur, wir haben eine alte Mine, die da ist 20 Millionen allein in Exploration investiert worden. Warum sollte da die Company das nicht mindestens, sage ich einmal, das 5-fache bis 10-fache wert sein? Das ist ein No-Brainer. Die Frage ist immer nur die Zeitachse. Wie lange dauert es, dass man Teck zuschlägt? Und da ist natürlich jetzt spannend, dass sie sich so interessant machen, dass vielleicht auch wirklich für einen Einzelnen interessant ist, ich ziehe dort meine eigene Mine hoch, das geht sich aus. Dann kommt Teck sehr schnell und sagt, wir machen den Deckel zu, und dann hat man so natürlich das Optimale, nämlich einen Bieterkampf. Bis dorthin müssen wir mal kommen, aber sage ich mal, muss man ehrlicherweise sagen, früher oder später ist das Projekt weg. Wie lange das dauern wird, wissen wir nicht, aber es sollte eigentlich auf jeden Fall so mehr sein als mit 3 Millionen. Das heißt, wenn ich jetzt mit 3 Millionen investieren kann, dann ist das eigentlich eine relativ sichere Sache. Haben mir sehr gut gefallen, die Präsentation. Wir haben heute den 17. Im 17. April 2024. Das war GSP Resources, und wir werden auf jeden Fall wieder ein Update bringen. So, das war's von mir, von meiner Seite. Tschüss und Baba. Vierte. Simon, thank you for your time. 31 minutes, but really, thank you for your time. It was a great presentation. Really a great story. I like it. Only 3 million market cap. It's, for me, is a no-brainer, I must say.
Well, thank you very much. Great to chat with you today.
Thank you, and have a nice day.
Likewise. Bye.
Thank you.